This is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, thank you for joining us. Our crew is off today for the holidays, so we prepared this program for you. In October, we spoke to Joey Clift, who is a writer and a comedian. He's written for Nickelodeon and DreamWorks, and recently he helped create a list of 26 Indigenous comedians to follow. Using humor, he made an animated film describing what it's like when someone approaches a Native American and makes false claims of being an American Indian.
Telling people you're Native American when you're not Native is a lot like telling a bear you're a bear when you're not a bear. If you tell a bear you're a bear when you're not a bear, you will get mauled by that bear. If you wear the traditional clothing of a bear when telling a bear that you are also a bear, you'll get mauled by that bear. If you tell a bear you're 1/16th bear, but you don't know what kind of bear, and you've never bothered to research your bear culture, and yet you think you have more right to an opinion about bear issues than the actual bear standing in front of you, you're gonna get mauled by that bear. If you make products with a bear's face on it, and even though you've made $1 billion off of it and the bear has clearly said they don't like it, and you don't give any of the money you've earned to bears in need until you're guilted into it decades after you started doing it, you and that bear are fine. Just kidding. You're gonna get mauled by that bear. If you tell a bear that lions are your spirit animal, you're gonna get mauled by that bear. And the lion. If you, a non-bear, make friends with a bear, learn their bear culture and language, and then get mad when the bear doesn't ask you to be a member of their bear clan or give you a bear naming ceremony, you're gonna get mauled by that bear. Also, bears don't have naming ceremonies, so that request is stupid. And if you tell people you're a bear, even though you know full well that you're not a bear just to get jobs and opportunities that are set aside for bears, you're gonna get mauled by a butterfly. The bear would maul you, but he's in a business meeting. Wait, meeting's over.
Hey, I thought we were not. Ouch, though!
So, in conclusion, if you're cool to Native Americans, you will not get mauled by a bear. The end. No white guys were harmed in the making of this short. That's us.
Well, Joey's next adventure now includes joining the all-native writing room for Netflix's brand new animated series, Spirit Rangers. Welcome to our program, Joey.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on Indian Country today. I'm a big fan, and sorry that my short film name is so long. It's like the Fiona Apple album title of short film names. It's 24 words long.
Well, and even the title is funny, right? You know, as we're looking at this pandemic, and as we're talking about trying to get through the pandemic and using humor, how did your writing change in this pandemic?
So yeah, I mean, the pandemic has definitely been, it's definitely had a big effect on, a lot of things in the world, and probably the smallest on the list is my writing process. The way that it's changed is prior to this, when I would be working on a show, I would go into a writer's room, sit in an office, usually eat a lot of free snacks from the office kitchen while cracking jokes in a room full of people. And now instead of doing that, I do most of my writing just kind of at my apartment, and most of my meetings are on Zoom or on some video chat. So there's a little bit more. I would say that the way that my writing process has changed for meetings is now I'm hyper aware of how messy my room is at any given time. So I'm just like, oh, that closet door's open. Oh, nobody should see that. Oh, my bed's messy. So I would say that that's become a big part of my writing process, is making sure I don't look like a slob.
Well, you and everyone else who now have to Zoom from home here, and isn't that true? We don't realize how much we miss that water cooler talk. Those little coffee breaks that we have when we're in an office with a lot of people, and I would imagine comedy writers especially really feed off of that energy of one another.
Oh yeah, it's so much of us came up through kind of like live comedy spaces where we would do shows together, and we would riff on stage and make an audience crack up. And it's still there over Zoom a little bit, but like sometimes we'll kind of accidentally step on each other's jokes just because there's like a latency and a lag. And it's also different a little bit. A lot of stand-up shows and comedy shows are over video chat now, so it's kind of the same deal of like, oh, instead of like driving to a comedy theater at midnight on a Tuesday to do a show, I'm just sitting in my dark room and just being like, I don't really want to go to bed right now, but I have to do this show.
Wow, it's a very different world here. So you're going to be writing for Netflix's Spirit Ranger series. How is this production different from other Netflix series?
So the way that this production is different from other Netflix series is that for the first time ever in the history of animated TV in the United States, it's an all-native writers' room, and it's just a very like native forward show in kind of like how I look at all aspects of storytelling for the show. And it's I would say the way that it's different from a lot of other writing jobs that I've had. Usually when I'm working in rooms, in writers' rooms, I'm the only native on staff. So because of that, and because, as we know, it's like your average person probably doesn't know as much about natives as they maybe probably should. Whenever I would pitch like native jokes, storylines, or anything like that to like a non-native writer's room, I would usually have to start every pitch by establishing, first things first, I was born in a hospital, not a cave. My mom is not an eagle. And, because it's an all-native writer's room, we can just kind of jump into it. Everybody knows what smudging is. Everybody knows what fry bread is. We're all aware of like, a lot of, we're all aware of like, a lot of like native lore and stuff like that. So we can just get to like the heart of the stories and the meat of like what makes these stories great. So, I think that that's something that I really, appreciate and cherish about this experience. And I've got to shout out the creator, showrunner, Spirit Ranger, Carissa Valencia. She's a genius Shumash animation writer. She's doing great stuff. She put this team together, and she's really created a great space for us to, I think, make some cool stuff.
Well, it sounds like working on this series with an all-native writing team, it means a lot to you.
Yeah, it's like we throw the word special around a lot, kind of like in the writer's room, and that like this really just does feel like a special experience. Like for me personally, if you'll notice on the deadline announcement for the show, we have the blessings of the Shumash tribe and the Cowlitz tribe we have the blessings of the Shumash tribe and the Cowlitz tribe to kind of create the show and to create a lot of these characters. So I'm Cowlitz. What that means is I went to my tribal council and like pitched to them the idea of potentially having a Cowlitz character in the show. And my tribal council was completely on board for it. And like, that's something that's like, not just like professionally cool, but also just like personally and culturally, like probably one of my top 5, not just like career moments, but like life moments to get to do that. And to be able to kind of like, bring not just my people and my stories, but, like other folks, other tribes, like, stories and things like that kind of like into the mainstream. So I'd say that, we're all comedy writers making goofs, but like the ability to kind of tell our stories is just like an added thing that makes it 5 million times more cool,
Right. So we're really looking forward to seeing the series. When can we actually start watching it? And without giving too much away, kind of give us a synopsis.
Oh yeah, totally. So Spirit Rangers is a fantasy adventure preschool series following Native American sibling trio Kodiak, Summer, and Eddie Skycedar, who have a shared secret. They're Spirit Rangers. Spirit Rangers can transform into their own animal spirit to help protect the national park that they call home. And once again, the show's created by Carissa Valencia. She's an amazing Shumash writer, and she's showrunning the show, and she's great. The release date, I would say, let's see, how do I say this without getting fired by Netflix? It's usually when shows are announced, it's kind of when they're closer to the start of their production than the end of their production. So, the show's definitely currently in production right now. So release date, I would say TBD, but, it'll be out soon, and we'll be dropping news and stuff about it as we progress.
Okay. Are there any res dogs making an appearance?
Okay. No comment.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to that. So keep in touch, and we'll let our viewers know when they can start watching this series on Netflix.
Of course.
So thank you so much for joining us, Joey Clift.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. And for the record, I love res dogs. Res dogs are great.
The animated series, Spirit Rangers, is something to watch for in 2021. The fantasy adventure series is about kids who are junior rangers in a park and protect the real world and the spirits that live there. It will air on Netflix. We'll be right back. When road crews uncovered a shell mound burial ground in Richmond, California, city officials followed legal protocol and notified area tribes who could honor and care for the items found. What happened next, though, wasn't in the statutes. It was, according to one tribal elder, an example of miracles brought on by the ancestors. Stuart Huntington has more.
Richmond budgets 1.5% of major projects for public art, and after the shell mound discovery, officials knew that the art had to honor the city's Ohlone heritage. They consulted Native leaders from the start, and the approach was hailed as a breakthrough.
There's nothing that's been specifically created with our people in mind and involved in the planning and the so this is a beautiful thing. And yes, I'm hoping that this will be something that we could showcase to other cities.
Finding the right artist was key, and sculptor Masayuki Nagase, who goes by Yuki, was a perfect fit.
The way he works is he meets with the tribal members many times, and he works extensively with them to develop what that project will be.
Yuki's designs spring from an openness to traditional Native culture.
They lived by the creek and they collected and made living in the natural environment. And one of the very important elements of the life is oak tree. And acorns they collected, and that's a life staple for them.
The work includes planters for tribal members to raise traditional and medicinal plants.
So there's white sage, there's California strawberries, there is angelica roots, soap root plants.
And others. The results, say Gould, are special.
You know, when we stepped onto that land and we saw the magic that was in those stones that Yuki made, it was beyond our imagination what something like this could be.
There are several bands of Ohlone people in the San Francisco Bay Area. They still have many battles to fight to protect shell mound sites, but in recent years they have had some successes, capped by this new park in the North Bay town of Richmond.
It has been this domino effect of people with good hearts reaching out to the tribe to do this really great work. You know, it's miracles that's happening right now, really, you know, and I give all of that credit to these ancestors that prayed for us for thousands of years on this land, that are ready to have their story told in the way that it should be told.
In Richmond, California, Stuart Huntington, Indian Country Today.
This year also marked the 20th anniversary of the Sacagawea coin. Sacagawea was the Lemhi Shoshone woman who was part of the Lewis and Clark expedition in the early 1800s. When the U.S. Mint made the coin, they needed a model. Randy'l Teton was that model, and she told us how being in the right place at the right time helped her land this historic modeling job. 20 years ago, the U.S. Mint released a $1 coin dedicated to Sacagawea. She was a Lemhi Shoshone woman who became a part of the Lewis and Clark expedition in the early 1800s. When an image was needed to mint the coin, a young Shoshone woman, still in college at the time, became that model. Randy'l Teton is the model, and today she joins us to talk about this journey that has become educational and also entertaining and a whole lot of other things. Randy'l, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's definitely, I just want to say, you are something else. Sacagawea is something else. I had to throw that out.
Of course. We are both something else, and that's another hashtag that's trending here. And but you know, that kind of speaks to the whole idea of just imagery and not knowing some of not just Native leaders in history, but Native women. So this whole story about Sacagawea and how she was taken basically from her tribe and put on this expedition with Lewis and Clark. Let's talk a little bit about that, because again, where are we today when it comes to understanding who our Native people are and our place in history and our place in the world today?
Well, let me tell you, when I pursued going into higher education off my reservation, there was always that fear of, am I going to make it? Am I going to finish? And honestly, choosing a school in New Mexico was probably the best thing ever, because it landed me the opportunity to meet wonderful people in New Mexico. I was going to University of New Mexico, and I was reached out by a famous artist out of Santa Fe. Her name is Glenna Goodacre, and rest in peace. She actually passed away earlier this year. But she reached out to me in search of a Shoshone girl to get a better sense of what Sacagawea, who she knew at that time was Shoshone from Idaho. And myself, I am Shoshone Bannock from Fort Hall, Idaho. And, she reached out, she went to the nearby Institute of American Indian Arts Museum in downtown Santa Fe, and happened to talk to my mother, who actually was a former museum director for my tribe, for our tribal museum. And in that conversation, she was able to learn a lot of things about Sacagawea. And if I can just take a step back, that Glenna Goodacre was approached by the United States Mint for a project to replace the Susan B. Anthony dollar coin that was not doing so well in the public. People didn't really utilize it. So there was a huge list of potential females that made an impact in United States history. And we're so thankful Sacagawea was chosen. And so this artist did not know anything about who Sacagawea was, other than she traveled with a Lewis and Clark. And when she had a conversation with my mother for about 3 hours, her last question was, do you have any daughters? My mother at that time took out her wallet that had all of our pictures in it. And she immediately, the artist says, I want her. And I happened to look pretty much the same that I do, kind of have that natural look, the long black hair. And my mom said, you're lucky, because she is going to school at University of New Mexico. So I got a call. My mom said that this lady would like me to model. I agreed. I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't really understand at that time what the project was about. I went to Santa Fe. I spent a whole weekend with Glenna Goodacre, understanding what this secret project is about. And I was just thankful to be part of this historical project, to be honest. I really did not know that my face would be on a United States currency. I am labeled today as the youngest and only living model on United States currency. And I have a story to share just with my journey, but also understanding who Sacagawea is as a Shoshone girl. I don't believe she was a woman yet when she traveled with the Lewis and Clark. She was probably about 14 with her baby, a brand new baby. And if you can imagine, being 14 with a brand new baby and having to take care of 20 plus men that you never, you don't know, that was her situation. And honestly, I can't think of being in her moccasins of what she was thinking daily, of being a young wife, a young mother, and being able to have this responsibility on her. But what I am glad is that she was chosen to be on the new dollar coin. So, lots of good stuff here.
Well, through the years, after the coin was released, that must have been a lot to contend with, all the publicity and people, wanting to get this coin and use it, or just keep it as a collector's item. What was the one question people kept asking you about Sacagawea?
The biggest question I got was, are you real Native American? I I actually did travel with the United States Mint for 2 years. The coin was actually, get this, it was released at the White House on the lawn when President Clinton was our president. He was actually in Puerto Rico at the time of the unveiling ceremony. And I was able to share the stage with his wife, Hillary Clinton, and also with the U.S. Mint, and a couple of other tribal delegates were also at this unveiling ceremony. And it was an amazing opportunity, but at that event, I was able to brush shoulders and really network with a lot of Congress people, political figures in Washington, D.C. and New York. And the biggest question I got is, are you related to Sacagawea? No, I'm not related to her blood-wise, but you know, when you actually take a large group of Shoshones, we're all related in some way, whether it's through intermarriages. But unfortunately, Sacagawea had 2 children, but they were not able to bear children because her daughter passed away from a putrid fever, which is sad. She was about 2. And then her son, who actually was with her on the expedition, he actually lived to be in his early 20s, and he passed away.
Wow.
So she does not have any lineage today.
What was the biggest misconception about Sacagawea that you heard?
That she did not serve the expedition adequately, as people, I think, write about her. And, you know, honestly, you know, to our Indian people, we have stories that we share, and there are stories from our Eastern Shoshone people, from the Comanches, that actually all know or have actually had interactions with her after the expedition. And she was able to share those stories with certain families. And so when we look at the fiction writing of Sacagawea, I would just like to just throw out a warning, is that don't believe everything that you read that is written by a non-native. And that's the thing that is so important for me to get out and actually share a tribal perspective of Sacagawea and our Shoshone Nation, because there's a lot more that you can't get in a storybook. And you know, we have National Native American Heritage Month this month, and you know, being able to share this information with our kids is so important.
What do you want people to know about Sacagawea?
I would like you to know the real story. She was enslaved. She was taken when she was probably about 11 or 12 years old from the Mandan Hidatsas. She did try to escape. There is another story that we have within our tribal nation. It's actually written in a book, a children's book called Nyanuki. You know, Sacagawea actually had a really hard, she struggled. And we have to remember she was only in her teen years when she was on this expedition. So it's just knowing that she was able to contribute the survival skills to these young men who were from St. Louis. They were the ages of 18 to 23, and they didn't know how to survive out in the West. She taught them how to pick the right roots and the berries to eat when they got sick or when they were starving. She helped them create snares to capture small game. So her contribution, I think, is not fully out there. And I feel like that's what we need to hear, is the true story of Sacagawea.
And in this year-long celebration, what are some of the events that are taking place across the country to commemorate the 20th anniversary of this coin?
Well, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do a whole lot. But, you know, I can say that we've been able to work on this project with the Smithsonian. And this is one of the items that we actually have. We have a real pure gold Sacagawea dollar and a pure silver Sacagawea dollar. And this is actually being endorsed by my tribe, the Shoshone-Bannock tribes, and myself. The labels for each of these coins is signed by me. And there's also a little storybook that comes with that purchase. So those are just one of the events that we're hoping to do. I would really love to reach out to Smithsonian, the National Museum of American Indian, to see if we can do something special in regards to this 20th anniversary of Sacagawea.
Well, it's become a very popular dollar coin, and you also have a Facebook page, Sacagawea coin model, so people can follow that as well. I
Yes.
really want to say thank you for joining us today and telling us a little bit more about Sacagawea. Thank you so much, Randy'l Teton.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. And follow me and like me. And remember, you're something else.
Randy'l Teton also just announced she has signed a deal with Disney for a media project, so you can look for more news on that in 2021. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Your life is precious. I'm Patty Tholahungva. Join us again tomorrow.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.